Hi, it's Stu Richards from Bredin. Thank you for joining us today on our latest Fastcast, Selling SaaS to SMBs. I appreciate you taking the time to join us for this research readout. And as people log in, what I wanted to do is to share with you a little bit on who Bredin is, for those of you who haven't been part of the Bredin Fastcast before. We are a consultancy that helps clients to better understand and engage the small to mid-sized business audience. You can see here the folks with whom we've had the opportunity to work. As you can see, wide range of companies in different industries, whether it's financial services, in banking, payments, credit, cards, or technology, telecommunications, HR services. But the common theme is that everything we do is designed to help our clients to better understand and engage with the SMB audience, however they define SMBs. We tend to think of SMBs, well, I'll give you the description as we talk through the research, but we've worked with clients who think of them either by headcount or by revenue or by industry or location or stage of growth, you name it. But regardless of who they are targeting, what we do is really two things. The first is to conduct research to provide insights into the mindset of SMBs. And that can mean a variety of things. At the end of the day, the research we do is designed to support insights to help with optimizing the customer experience, for example, with the usage of your app, your website, an online application. It might be to help with the optimization of product strategy, for example, prioritization of product features or functionality, or it might be to help with decisions around go-to-market strategies, such as which media to use or what messaging is going to resonate best with your target audience, or it might be that we conduct research to generate data that you can use in outbound programs like content or PR, social campaigns, or to support the development of sales or event collateral. The way we conduct research, we're pretty agnostic. We do a lot of online quantitative research, but we certainly do a fair amount of qualitative as well, which might mean conducting one-on-one in-depth interviews or focus groups, which in turn can be live or online. As you can see, who we research completely depends on what your objectives are. We survey a wide range of topics for our clients, as you can see. But again, analytically, we're also pretty agnostic. We can support, simple development of crosstabs or, more sophisticated analysis, helping to determine what is the optimal segment to pursue, what's a market size, what pricing is going to work best. And we can also help to take the research that we conduct, if it's not strictly for internal decision making, we can help to convert that into outbound programs by converting it into content in a wide variety of formats. So we've done a lot of research initiatives with the goal of helping clients to support, for example, the development of a webcast or a white paper, or a research report, infographics, or other kinds of content. And we can help support that with social campaigns, or again, as I mentioned, we can support the development of sales or other kinds of collateral. So anyway, that's the message from your sponsor. What I wanted to do, as people have logged in, is to get right into the reason you're here today, which is to get hopefully a better understanding of why SMBs are adopting the cloud and what you can do to better engage them. So we'll talk through the kind of applications that they currently have and plan to use, which they plan to, are currently using in the cloud, which they plan to move to the cloud, and why, what it is that they like about the cloud. And also in terms of how they buy the cloud, who they prefer to buy from and why, and also whether they have an IT director in-house to help with that purchase. And then what they want from you if you're a cloud vendor. So we'll, talk a little bit about some important message points. Then finally, when you're in this situation where a prospect is on the fence about making a purchase, we'll talk about offers that can help convert them to a sale. So methodologically, how we conducted this research, we do a survey every month, which we call the SMB Pulse. It's a survey of 500 principals, meaning owner, founder, president, CEO, partner, managing director, someone like that, at SMBs of any industry across the United States. You can see the breakout in this table by company size. So half of the respondent set is companies with under 20 employees, which we call very small businesses or VSBs. 150 of the 500 respondents are principals of companies with 20 to 99 employees, which we call small businesses. And then the remaining 100 are companies that have 100 to 500 employees. We call those mid-sized businesses or MBs. Where we present the data in total, we've weighted it because, of course, the vast majority of SMBs are small businesses. Actually, 98% of companies with under 500 employees have fewer than 20 employees. So we've weighted it back just to make sure that it's a representative sample. And we did just conduct this research recently from end of September to mid-October. So this is very recent data. Just a note on who participated. Again, they had to be a principal. We talked a little bit about the headcount. You can see revenue distribution. By the way, if you would like a copy of this deck, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to send this over so you don't have to do screen caps or take notes or anything like this. We can also send the recording if you'd like. But just again, so you'll have all this data. But it's a good distribution of respondents by revenue, by company age, by business outlook, by location in the country. We also ask about where their business is headquartered. Is it in a city? Is it in the country? What industry they're in? We don't weight this, so it's a pretty good representative distribution. And we do ask at the 2-digit NAICS level for them to select the industry they're in, and we roll those up into 4 groups. And then we also ask a little bit about demographics, just gender, age, political affiliation, although we don't really report that out, certainly in this deck. Anyway, the first question that we asked was just to have an overview of their application inventory. So here we just wanted to get a sense of, out of the major categories of applications that an SMB might use, which do they have? And we give them 3 response options. Either they could say they use it in the cloud, they can have it resident on site, or they can say, we just don't use that. And, so for example, if you look down towards the bottom, infrastructure as a service, not surprisingly, that has the least penetration. Now, this, as I mentioned, this is total or weighted data, so this really reflects the responses of the very smallest businesses, which are, of course, least likely to have something like IaaS. But it's interesting to see the penetration. And I think what's really interesting is if you take a look, comparing those solutions that are in the cloud versus those are resident, a slight preponderance for cloud usage, although there are some categories where, for example, in the use of accounting solutions, they're more prevalent in the cloud. I'm sorry, on site, on-prem, than they are in the cloud, and that's the case for a number of categories like payroll solutions or design or illustration software. So, the big takeaway is certainly, again, this is really looking at VSBs because it's weighted data, but there's a lot of opportunity, A, to sell more software to SMBs if you look over on the right-hand side, and B, to convert a lot of SMBs from on-prem solutions to the cloud. And we'll talk about how and why to do that as we proceed through this deck. Now, what we did is we asked the same question, but we've broken it out by company size. So here, again, same question, but just presented a little bit differently. So you'll see again, if you look over on the left-hand side of the slide for document creation, which had the highest overall incidence, you can see that for very small businesses, again, under 20 employees, 44% of them use some sort of document solution. Again, this could be, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word. It could be Carbonite for storage or backup, and it could be a DocuSign for signing software. So that's a large category for document creation and management. But of those applications, 44% are using it primarily in the cloud, 34% have resident on site. Now, by the way, we did provide definitions of what it means to be in the cloud. And we said, if you're using some sort of hybrid solution, that counts as being in the cloud. But I think what jumps out here is that there is some misunderstanding of what the cloud actually means. So for example, we didn't include an email category here because pretty much everyone is using email. But we do get a lot of instances when we've surveyed that in the past that a lot of small businesses think that their email is resident when they're actually using Gmail, for example, which is of course cloud-based. So, even though we provided definitions of what the cloud and on-prem meant, there's some misunderstanding still among SMBs, generally speaking, even among the biggest ones, of what the cloud actually means. And we'll talk a little bit about the implications for that. So I won't belabor this, but big takeaways are application usage overall increases with company size, probably not that surprising. VSBs are much less likely to use every solution category. SBs and MBs vary a little bit, but they're pretty close. Whereas they're significantly different from VSBs. In every category, in addition to VSBs not using applications at all, they're also much less likely to use applications in the cloud than SBs or MBs are. And again, SBs and MBs are kind of surprisingly similar in many cases in their utilization of applications, regardless of category. But significantly different from VSBs. And so the big takeaway really from this slide is that VSBs represent a big opportunity in two areas. One is education. Again, they don't necessarily understand what the cloud is still, and they don't really understand what the benefits are, or what kind of productivity or security gains they might be able to get by moving to the cloud. So then we said, okay, if for the subset of folks who are using any given application on premises, so again, this is, somewhere between, depending on category, let's say, a third to half of respondents might be using some kind of solution on-prem. They're most likely to move CRM applications from on-premises to the cloud. You can see 69% in total have some solution. The reason these bars don't all go to 100% is because we left out the no plans to ever move an on-prem solution to the cloud. And it's interesting, if you look at the bottom, the least likely application categories to move to the cloud ever are accounting solutions and document creation solutions. And if you look at the applications, just for this year, for those of you who has quotas to close out for calendar 2022, the solutions that are most likely to move to the cloud are IaaS and collaboration software, followed by design and illustration software. And so again, same thing, we broke out that same question by company size. And again, I won't belabor this, but I think, the interesting takeaways are, again, probably not surprisingly, likelihood to move on-prem apps to the cloud increases with company size. For VSBs, the biggest conversion opportunity again this year is IaaS, although that's not hugely, it doesn't have a huge share already, but also collaboration apps like Slack, for example. Among small businesses, again, 20 to 99 employees, collaboration apps is the biggest conversion opportunity from on-prem to the cloud. And among MBs, it's document-related applications, whether creation, sharing, management, backup, those kinds of things. So the next question we said is, okay, if for, and again, the percent of folks who don't use a given application or solution category varies widely. But for, again, this subset of folks who aren't using at all, any of these applications, we said, okay, when do you plan to use those? And again, the portions of the bars that aren't shown here are those who said, we just don't have any plans to acquire those solutions ever. So, for example, of folks that aren't currently using VoIP or UCaaS, only 10% of them plan to acquire that solution ever. But again, that's a low number, but we're also looking at weighted data, total data, which is representative of the very smallest businesses. So that share is likely to be higher among bigger businesses. So what we did is broke all of these data points out again by company size, but be really careful extrapolating this data. You'll see for the bigger businesses, those with 20 or more employees, the sample sizes are really small. So again, if you look at, for example, the number of companies with between 100 and 500 employees who don't have an accounting solution, is a grand total of 1. They probably do somehow, and they have no plans to ever adopt one. But again, be careful extrapolating that. It is interesting, if you look at the very smallest businesses who are, least likely, as we saw, to have any given application. In most cases, they're unlikely to have plans to get a solution that they haven't already. That said, of the solutions that they do plan to get at some point in the future, they're most likely to adopt marketing and video conferencing solutions. SBs, again, pretty small sample size. They're most likely to adopt merchant processing solutions. And MBs, again, who probably really already have most of these solutions for the most part, they're most likely to adopt some sort of payroll solution. And again, not many of them don't have that already, but of those who don't, that's the category where they're most likely to make an acquisition. So again, interesting, not too actionable, because again, other than VSBs, the larger businesses have done a pretty good job of adopting software, especially as a result of COVID, where, so many SMBs pulled software adoption forward. So here we said, okay, if you're going to get a particular application, and you can see that, again, categories listed down the left here, do you plan to acquire it in the cloud, again, including hybrid, or some sort of on-prem solution? And you can see for the most part, in all but two of the categories, more than half of respondents who plan to buy a solution plan to buy one in the cloud, with the exceptions being collaboration software and a payroll solution. And again, we broke this up by size, and you can see, other than for VSBs, pretty small sample sizes. So I won't belabor that. So I think perhaps a little bit more interesting, at least based on sample size, is the general question, how do you expect your use of cloud applications to change over the next 12 months? And this is interesting. The vast majority of very small businesses said, we'll use it about the same or more. Over half said we'll use it about the same. But clearly, the interest in increased utilization of cloud solutions, it increases with company size very significantly. So 4 out of 5 of the biggest companies, the 100 to 500 employees, say that they're likely to use the cloud more going forward. And if you ask why, well, there's a whole host of reasons, but primarily it's based on the perception of increased reliability on the part of cloud solutions over on-prem. So that's really something. And again, we'll talk about takeaways towards the end. But when you're thinking about messaging, this is a really important takeaway. Is reliability is really important. There's a whole host of factors for that. Not least of which, of course, is what kind of maintenance do you need to have in order to support some sort of on-premises solution? What sort of skill sets do you have to have? And then, when you outsource that to a cloud solution, how much easier does life get? How much better is reliability? And also, by the way, anywhere, anytime access to applications data, really important for the very smallest businesses. And, again, something to really harp on for them. For bigger businesses, for small businesses and mid-sized businesses, security is really important. And that's something we see over and over and over in the research that we do, especially, the bigger the business, the more important security is. So really important to communicate when you're talking to small businesses, the security parameters that you've built into your solution, because that really is important to them. SMBs really very well understand the cost of data security, and the risks to their business and reputation. Continuation, it's interesting to see, for the most part, there isn't that much significant variability in terms of what's important to SMBs, except in the case, for example, of MBs, the biggest businesses, are often driven to adopt cloud solutions based on requirements, whether it's from their industry or from government. And a little bit of difference, for example, a cloud solution might be recommended by an MSP, and that's a little bit more likely in the case of companies with 20 to 500 employees than it is among those with under 20. And likewise, if a vendor of an on-premises solution has a big cost increase, then that can be a motivator to move to an alternative cloud solution on the part of, again, bigger businesses. We also asked just a simple agree-disagree question for a whole host of benefits around cloud solutions versus on-prem. And you can see pretty much everybody, 9 out of 10 in most cases, agree with a variety of benefits of cloud solutions. So again, these are really positive messages to communicate, in your sales and marketing materials. So, and it's interesting to see how much of these are productivity related. So remote access is easier, availability is higher, implementation is faster, response time is better. Employee collaboration. So a lot of this is focused on, the benefits to the end user, but there are also, of course, really important benefits to the support team, again, around like implementation or maintenance and upgrades. So lots of benefits to communicate and really important to communicate that, again, especially to VSBs who really don't, for the most part, understand a lot of the takeaways of, the benefits of the cloud. Also interesting to see, for the biggest businesses, and this is a continuation of the list of benefits that they could agree or not with, that security, again, is really important to the biggest businesses. And again, really important that you communicate, again, the community, the security features of your solution to SMBs. Especially the big ones. And we also said, okay, there's other attributes of cloud-based solutions that a vendor might provide or, might be relevant to your decision-making process. So we wanted to get an understanding of how important these are. And here they could simply select not important, somewhat important, or very important, and this is a percent, of course, of all those who selected very important. And it's interesting, again, of these options, when they're thinking about a cloud solution, security is the most important to them, relative to these other things, like it's a cutting edge technology or best in class solution, or, comes from a well-known company. So across the board, security is really important. Proven technology is interesting. So, for a lot of SMBs, they just want to know, is this a solution that works? Has it benefited companies like mine? Really important to communicate that, especially via your, case studies, customer success stories, regardless of company size. And what's third varies a little bit. That's, for small businesses and very small businesses, integration with other applications. So, the doing away with rekeying data is a huge benefit for businesses, of course. And if you can communicate that effectively, that's great. And it's interesting for the biggest businesses, the third most important attribute, although, again, it doesn't jump out hugely versus a couple other options, but they do like to know that a solution comes from a well-known brand. So, if that's the case, that's great. But if not, if you're a challenger brand, there's a lot of opportunity, provided that you can demonstrate that you've, solved benefits for businesses like those of your prospects. We also asked, of course, who SMBs want to buy from, basically direct from a vendor like a Google or a Salesforce or a Microsoft or whomever, or from some sort of third party, an IT reseller, their consultant, managed service provider, what have you. And as you can see, the vast majority, almost 9 out of 10 of very small businesses simply want to buy direct, and just do the download, although not all of them. And that number decreases, that percentage, I should say, the bigger the business. So mid-sized businesses, the 100 to 500, are significantly more likely to want to buy from a third party than their smaller peers are, although still, the majority of them, 2 out of 3, do want to buy direct. And for those who do want to buy from some third party, again, IT consultant, MSP, what have you, we wanted to probe a little bit on why. And it's really, a variety of reasons. For the smallest businesses, it's a combination of implementation support, which is not easy for a very small business that might not even have an IT director. And also just to make sure that they've got the correct solution. So helping with configuration, do we have the right vendor? Out of the vendor solutions, do we have the right option for our company? For small business, again, 20 to 99, what's most important to them from using a service provider, an MSP or an IT consultant, is training of employees as well as maintenance. So again, internal support. And for the biggest businesses, it's actually to get leverage to get the best price from a vendor, which is interesting, followed by implementation support and maintenance support. And so then we just wanted to probe a little bit on, okay, well, do you have an MSP or an IT consultant? And we have looked at the responses via a couple different lenses. So by company size, not surprisingly, the bigger the company, the more likely they are to have some sort of external tech support. But it's interesting, only about 1 in 5 VSBs do, whereas about 2 out of 3 of the biggest businesses do. A little bit of variation, I should say, by industry group. So personal services are most likely to have a third party, but not much more than any of the other industry groups. There's more variability by geography. So businesses in the Northeast, for whatever reason, and likewise, those companies that are kind of, at least by our definition, middle-aged, 10 to 19 years old, are most likely to have a third-party support. Not much difference by age of respondent, whereas if you look at the same question, an internal IT director, again, the tendency holds, the bigger the company, the more likely they are to have an IT director. But again, for very small businesses, only 1 in 5 have one. And strong increase again by size. By industry, a little bit of variability. In this case, manufacturers are more likely to have a IT director or some sort of IT manager than other industry groups. Again, in the Northeast, don't know why. And here, actually, by respondent age, it's interesting. Millennials and Gen Z are more likely to have an IT director than businesses run by older principals. So the last section of the questions that we'll run through, and I know we're getting to the bottom of the hour, we want to let you move on with your day, but we just wanted to get a little bit of insight into what SMBs want from a cloud application vendor. So first and foremost, again, out of the selections we provided, they're most interested in getting tips and advice on getting the most out of the application you provide, again, if you're a cloud vendor. So, whether it's in-app or via an email or some other way, keeping them current on how it is that they can take advantage of the solutions they've invested in is fantastic. They really appreciate that, and that's actually something to look for during the purchase process. That's something we've identified in other research. What's also interesting is there's pretty strong interest, especially on the part of ESPs, in general business management advice. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to tell them absolutely everything about how to run a small business. What they would really look to you for is business management advice that's relevant to your domain of expertise. So if you're providing accounting solutions, then general tips on how they can do a better job on managing cash flow or billing and collections, or whatever, again, is topically relevant to your offering. Or if you're an e-commerce solution, then how can they do a better job diminishing shopping cart abandons? That is going to really help them to build their business, and they would look to you for expertise on that. So small businesses, for them, the very smallest businesses, that's second most important, but still pretty important to bigger businesses as well. And we will be presenting another Fastcast in a couple weeks with more advice on that. So we hope you can join us for that. What's also interesting, an interactive tool, this is pre-sale, of course, but if you can devise some sort of interactive tool that helps a business understand how your solution will benefit them, whether it's in productivity gains or cost reductions or security gains or what have you, that's really important. Top 3 for everybody, but it's actually the most important, tied with tips and advice on getting the most out of your cloud application among the mid-sized businesses. So hopefully, this is helpful in determining, what kind of offerings to provide to SMBs. And then finally, what we asked about is, okay, if you're on the fence about adopting a cloud solution, whether it's converting on-prem to the cloud or, net new application for your business, what would get you to commit to that sale. And what you can see here is that for very small businesses, and again, they had to pick one of these options on the left. The plurality picked a free trial. And that's also surprisingly the most compelling. 18 out of the 96 folks who are using or will use the cloud. For the MBs, that's the most compelling offer, some kind of a free trial. Second most compelling among small businesses. Also among mid-sized businesses, helping in some way, shape, or form to make a financial case for an executive team. So again, that's consistent with their interest in an interactive tool to demonstrate benefits or, help them build a business case. And also an on-site demo. So, can you come help them see how it would work in their environment? And for small businesses, SBs, what's most important to them is some kind of assistance with installation or integration or user training. And that's probably most likely, for those who don't have, some sort of third-party support there. So anyway, that is it. What I wanted to do is wrap up with a couple of takeaways. So, one of the key findings that probably resonated throughout these slides was the lack of adoption on the part of SMBs of the cloud, or in many cases, just any kind of application, whether it's in the cloud or on-prem. But really, they don't, as a general rule, understand the benefits of the cloud. They're much less likely to say their use of the cloud is going to increase going forward. So they really still need a lot of education on, again, what is the cloud? What are the different flavors of it? What kind of things can I get in the cloud? But most importantly, what can it do for my business? How can I be better off? And reliability and security, as we saw, really key benefits, to be sure to highlight that in the communications to SMBs. And the cloud increases productivity. We saw a lot around, again, response time or collaboration or anywhere, anytime access. So really important to play that out for your prospects. They're also really interested in understanding, that your technology is proven, it works for businesses like them, and it integrates with their other solutions. Really good to present that via case studies. As we saw, most SMBs do want to buy directly from you if you are a cloud vendor, so make it easy for them to do so. Make it easy for them to navigate to the purchase and download section of your site. And if they don't, though, want to buy directly from you, if they prefer a reseller, again, for example, for implementation or maintenance or training support, make it easy for them to find a partner. So, have that directory easily available on your site so that they can go do that purchase if that's the way that they want to buy. And then a couple other takeaways. As we saw, only about 1 in 5 very small businesses have an internal IT director or an external IT partner. But as we also saw, not every not every small business does, and not even every mid-sized business does. So, in many cases, you may be talking to a company that doesn't have any kind of IT, knowledge center or anyone who's dedicated, other than perhaps an office manager who's got a lot of other responsibilities as well. So really important to make your communications comprehensible to a non-tech audience. So try to avoid jargon, really use terms that they'll understand, and really speak the language that's going to resonate. So again, productivity benefits, cost saving benefits, security benefits, those are all going to really resonate. Again, SMBs, as we saw, they want advice on how to get the most from the application you provide. So, make it easy for them to continually improve in their utilization of it. And that's just going to really help, of course, with, improving your, overall user satisfaction and generating recurring revenue. But they also want general business management tips. You're probably already doing that, but it's something that we just see again, over and over and over, is really important to business owners. They do look to their vendors for expertise in your domain and really benefit from that. And then finally, to the degree that your economics support a free trial, that can help to close sales. So if that's something that can work for you, then it's a good idea to do so. So anyway, that's it. I hope that has been useful, thought-provoking, and I hope you can join us as well on the next Fastcast that I mentioned. We recently surveyed SMBs and the pulse on the information sources that they use across the sales cycle. We'll be presenting that in our next Fastcast on December 15th, so I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, if we can help you, so if, for example, there are areas that we touched on here that you'd like us to drill down on, we can conduct custom research for you on that, or you can participate in our pulse to get those kinds of answers. If you'd like support in taking research results forward via content, we can certainly help with that. So please reach out to me. My email address is here, whether you'd like a copy of this presentation or if we can help you with understanding SMB's interest in SaaS solutions and how to reach out to them. We'd love the opportunity to do so. So thank you for your time. Hope, again, that this was worthwhile and thought-provoking. And what I wanted to do too is, if you had any questions, there's an area at the bottom of your screen where you can enter them. I'm going to stay online for a minute if you want to ask a question that way. But if not, again, thanks for attending today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on an upcoming Bredin Fastcast. Take care.